Hey everyone, it's eclipse season. There's a lot going on, so let's dig in. So the first eclipse kicked off the year strong, 2019, on January 5th, and this eclipse was in Capricorn, and it conjoined the planet Saturn. So many of us are probably experiencing Saturn themes right now. I know I have. So for some of us, it might be about maturity and authority and doing one's duty. I know that this week I've been challenged to stand up for myself, ask for more money in certain instances, and set boundaries with people, and often in a professional way. Another thing that's come up for me is the awareness around some of the emotional and protective boundaries that I've set just like subconsciously, just to kind of protect my energy and all that. So that's been showing me where I've done well in that way, and reaffirming the importance of setting boundaries, because Saturn rules boundaries. It rules walls. And ironically right now, the government, which is deals with Capricorn, where the eclipse is, the government is in shutdown, and one of the reasons is because Congress is divided on giving the president what he wants with building a physical fucking wall between here, the United States, and Mexico, which is stupid, for a lot of reasons. Just my point of view. You don't have to agree with me. But so Saturn, it has to do with walls, it has to do with boundaries, it has to do with order. So a lot of us might be experiencing Saturn themes around this eclipse. Another thing Saturn rules is our time. We only have so much time on this earth. So Saturn and Capricorn, it also has to do with self-actualization. It has to do with our ambitions, what are having a purpose in life, and taking the steps to work toward it. And if we only have so much time in life, then we want to use that time wisely. We want to be moving towards things that are of concrete value to us, or long-term value, or substantial value. And using Venus words here, like value, Saturn is exalted in Libra's sign, in the sign of Libra, which is Venus's sign. And so Saturn really does have a lot to do with our choices. It really does. Venus is what we prefer. It's what we like. It's what is pleasing to us. It's what we would prefer. But Saturn has to do with making executive choices, and it's concerned with making the best choice. It might not be the choice that you want, but it's making the choice, or a choice. Jupiter is like, I have abundance. I don't need to necessarily make a choice per se, because I can have it all. But with Saturn, it's like, I have to pick something. I have to pick just one thing. So sometimes maybe this eclipse is encouraging us or showing us where the correct choice needs to be made, or where we need to set boundaries, or where we need to be more realistic, or where we need to be the authority in our lives. Or it could also have to do with the physical body, and because Saturn deals with our mortality. It rules time. We only have so much time on this planet. So some of these themes may have been coming up for us. We have lots of choices to make in our lives, and at the end of the day, these eclipses coming in, eclipses are cosmic course correctors. They put things in our path that are going to be useful to our development, our growth. There is definitely an esoteric vibe to these eclipses, because we can't always explain them. We can't always predict what they're going to bring in and bring out. They don't follow natural law, because eclipses disrupt natural law. They disrupt the natural flow of light on this planet. The sun rises every day at a certain time, and then it's nighttime. But a total solar eclipse during the day makes it night during the day, and so it darkens everything. Sometimes we feel like we can't see anything, we can't see clearly, we're eclipsed. But then the total solar eclipse will also show you stars and planets in the daytime sky, so it also brings things to light. Similarly, a lunar eclipse, it changes the way that we view the moon. It changes the colors of the clouds. So it definitely has a similar effect. Eclipses turn reality upside down and show us something in a new way. And so we aren't always in control of what we're going to see or the changes that will come of the eclipses. They tend to make changes that seem to have our best interest in the long run. You know, even if something challenging happens, years later you'll look back and see how that experience was life-changing. You know, that whatever you were going after that you were disappointed about, that the eclipses took away, turns out it's for another reason. You know, but these things take time to see. So again, yeah, eclipses change. Right now it's a stressful time, and because light is information, you know, that's getting disrupted, it's getting filtered in another way. We're seeing things in another way. Things are changing. And another thing that is going on right now is Uranus just stationed direct. So first of all, we have all the main planets moving direct, and a lot of the main asteroids we're using too, all moving direct. So now we're ready to move forward. You're going to notice that things really start to move fast now through March when Mercury goes retrograde. But we're moving forward, we're moving fast. Uranus is the awakener. Uranus, when a planet stations, the energy around that planet gets emphasized. And Uranus also deals with change. So between the Uranus station the day after the solar eclipse and the solar eclipse itself, we are seeing a lot of changes. And sorry, I'm getting text messages and I'm getting distracted. Okay, so lots of changes. So we saw that Cyntoia Brown was granted clemency. That was a big reversal. So, and that's really exciting. And that had to do also with Uranus station in the sign of Aries for the last time. Uranus has been in Aries since 2010, 2011. And what that highlighted was, and reminded us of collectively, was that we as individuals have sovereignty. We have rights. Our voice matters. It was also around the time that Uranus entered Aries that the term selfie was coined, because smartphones started to be commonplace and a lot of people started to have them. So that's when the term selfie was coined, which combines the technology of Uranus and Aries, the individual, and specifically the head. So interestingly enough. But also around that time, we had the Occupy movement, the Arab Spring, and there were just like movements all around the world. And Uranus was squaring off with Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto's still in Capricorn. And that has to do a lot with like the corporate order and the power of corporations and the power of the government. So the individual was challenging the government during that movement and the corporations and saying, hey, like, we see what you guys are doing and this is terrible and we don't accept it. We're still in the process of working the kinks out here, but we've made a lot of progress. And the clemency of Cyntoia Brown was a huge victory on this last Uranus station in Aries, because this was a movement where people, everyday people like you and me, organized, called the governor, you know, advocated for her, spread the word about her on our social media, you know, because of social media, because Uranus and Aries reminded us the sovereignty of individuals, we've been able to make movements happen and make changes happen. You and I have a platform. We have a voice. And Uranus and Aries reminded us of that. So, anyways, with eclipses and the energy of Uranus still in effect here, I don't know what's going to happen with the government shutdown. All I know is that Trump was elected when the eclipses started in Leo. And we had the Great American Eclipse. And wherever the path of the eclipse goes, especially a total solar eclipse, and that one was like a huge one. It was a very long eclipse. And that matters to the degree of how effective the eclipses are. So that eclipse went over America, sea to shining sea. And we've had nothing but problems in this country since it literally, the path of the eclipse literally went like, split the country in two. And this country is very divided right now. And yeah, there's been nothing great about what's going on. So eclipses tend to do that. They tend to eclipse things. Well, we are having the final eclipse in Leo, and that is going to happen. It's a lunar eclipse. That one happens on January 21st, 2019. It's actually Martin Luther King Day in the United States, which is pretty interesting. And it's the final eclipse of the Leo. So I'm wondering if we're going to see any kind of resolution here. I mean, things still, even right now with the government shutdown, things are definitely divided, not just among people, but in Congress itself. So I'm not sure how this is going to resolve. I'm going to allow the eclipses to help us resolve that. But what is interesting is that the Sabian symbol for the degree at 0 degrees Leo reads, "Under emotional stress, blood rushes to a man's head." Immediately I think of Donald Trump, which is interesting. And the moon is also on the apex of an aspect called Thor's hammer. And the other, it's like a triangle. It's not an equilateral triangle though. It's more of like an isosceles triangle, if you will. And it has Neptune and Pisces on one corner, and it has Jupiter and Venus at the other corner. Jupiter is going to be squaring off with Neptune all year. I've talked about this a little bit in other videos, but it does have to do with the dream. It does have to do with the vision, but it also has to deal with idealism and, you know, kind of rehashing this idea of fake news and demagogues and all that. Like, you're going to believe what you want to believe, but your bubble's about to be burst at some point. It's going to be burst at some point, and we're all going to have big dreams. The purpose of this is for us to dream big. We have to. With Jupiter in Sagittarius, we're aiming high, and the arrow is going to eventually land, you know, we're aiming high so that the arrow arcs, and then it's going to eventually come down a little bit by the weight of practicality and gravity, and it's going to hit the target eventually, or a target, right? Maybe not as lofty of a goal as we wanted, but the point being is that we are supposed to be dreaming big and considering like the best case scenario here. But then that's not always practical. And you could have this version of the truth and this version of the truth, and the truth is actually somewhere in between, as the saying goes. So it's interesting that this eclipse kind of brings in this energy of the first Jupiter-Neptune square, because there's going to be some illusions involved. And some of those are going to maybe be brought to light. We're going to get some information on that. Another thing interesting going on in this at the time of this eclipse is there is a Mars square Saturn aspect, and it's nearly exact in this eclipse chart. And that deals with frustration. That deals with the desire to move, but you can't. It's like you're driving your car and the parking brake is on. Like, you just can't go very fast. Or you're trying to accelerate, but the weather tech foot mat is underneath the accelerator and you can't go down all the way. Or you want to go out with your friends, but you're grounded. That is kind of the energy here. So it kind of has a sense of gridlock. And I know Trump has threatened to pull like a national emergency, and, you know, it's not a national emergency. So I don't know. There's a lot of drama in this chart. You know, Leo moon is drama, and we have everything we need for the perfect telenovela here with you know, Jupiter square Neptune. It's just, there's a lot of theatrics going on here, and I think it'll be our job, you know, using Saturn and Capricorn at its finest to be like, to have a doubtful, pessimistic eye going into this. Like, question everything. It doesn't hurt to question everything, especially during this year. And I think we learned our lesson last year, a couple years ago, with the fake news. Like, just question everything right now. And be willing to see. Eclipses are showing us things. We need to be in a space where we can be receptive to that, because then it'll be less stressful and actually probably less dramatic. The sooner you can see it, the less chaos needs to happen so that you can see it, if you get my drift. One other thing I want to bring up here that's going on, we do have some lovely aspects in fire this month, which is enthusiasm and passion and a vision and that spark, that belief, that inspiration, that creative spark. We have a lot of that energy going on this month, but it's also a lot of these planets are talking to Saturn. So it's like we do also have to be careful. We have to time ourselves right. We have to be cautious. We have to be realistic. So let this last eclipse in Capricorn speak to us. You know, protect yourself. That's Capricorn. Protect yourself. Set up healthy boundaries. Organize your time better. You know, get clear on what's most important to you. But actually, one other thing I did want to say is the planet Eris, and I'll be as bold to call her a planet. I mean, she's in the same category as Pluto. This planet is one that I've been paying a lot of attention to. She's actually a dwarf planet. I've been paying a lot of attention to Eris in the last few years. I'm going to be doing a lecture about her at, or related to her at GLAC this summer. But Eris is stationing direct tomorrow on January 10th. And when we see Eris strongly in a chart, Eris represents the enraged feminine. She doesn't have to be a woman per se, but we often do see women speaking up and speaking out. We have the R. Kelly stuff going on right now. I think we can expect more people to be outspoken about such predatory behavior. It's been a theme going on. And while Jupiter in Scorpio was a big astrological representative of the Me Too movement, I think Eris also has a say in the Me Too movement, because in her mythology, she was excluded. She was excluded from a dinner where everyone else was invited. And she was probably thinking, what about me? Me too. I have a voice. I have a place at the goddamn table. So she ended up rolling out a golden apple that said, to the fairest. And one thing led to another, and it led to the Trojan War. So one person's rage can actually lead to great movements. And I think that's just one small piece of the Eris story. So Eris is stationing tomorrow. I think we can expect to see anger. We can hear from some women. And because she is a marginalized character in the mythology, I think it's about people having a voice and being heard about something that they've maybe been silent about for way too long. So it's the eclipses, and we're in it, so let's stay in it and be in it to win it. And I will see you all soon.